a lot of times you'll hear people talk about living in the moment or living for the moment. They're living for the moment is usually a mistake, but living in the moment actually is a strategic plan for your own personal mental health. God talks about it. Jesus talks about it in the Gospels. And psychologically, it is probably one of the most profound things that you can do for your own mental health is to live in the moment. I like to refer to it as living sequentially. Sequentially is that you take one step at a time. Living in the moment is I'm not at the goal. I'm approaching the goal, but I'm taking this step today. And learning to not look at the past with regret and not looking at the future with fear is a powerful way to live. Living in the moment. We're going to talk about that today and how it affects our mental health.
Welcome to Hope Rescue. My name's Kimberly Scott. This is my fine husband, Dr. Tim Scott is in the house.
Okay.
So fine.
I'll take it. So fine.
So fine.
And thank you for joining us. Goodbye.
I'm laughing inside as you're discussing living in the moment because in these current circumstances, as the news, in these present circumstances, as they say on the news, in these COVID times, we have no choice but to basically live in the moment, and then often live in the moment with people that you don't necessarily want to live in the moment with. Let alone you've been in the past with them, you're in the present, and you don't want to live in the future.
It's like, well, are you quarantined? Yes.
Yeah.
With my kids.
I know.
I love my kids. Not anymore.
I've actually got together with some girlfriends. It was socially distanced, so don't judge me, this last week. And we were laughing about that because, laughing and actually having a real conversation about the fact that
I'm sure it was spiritual.
it did go there eventually. Yeah. But the tension is, of course, that you are in your home with your family that you do love, and conflict can arise. Now, if you're in a toxic situation,
except in our marriage,
no, we're perfect.
No, perfect, perfectly suited for one another.
We've had some doozies. Let's be honest. Since COVID, it's been good. But
today.
here's the upside. Here's the upside is that. What it also does for you is it causes you to either stay stuck or you push through it and you grow together. And I've seen some beautiful examples and got to hear some of those in those family situations. So,
COVID is going poorly when your wife says to you, Tim, maybe your wife calls you Tim. I don't know. Tim, you should never retire. I can't have you around the house forever. That's a good strategy for our marriage.
You stay pretty busy.
I stay busy, but I'm working here.
Yeah.
I get up in my office and you come by and is the scepter out?
It's the scepter out.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is we're in lockdown, but a nice drive every once in a while by yourself doesn't hurt. So.
Right. I did one today.
Yeah, you do.
Did.
You go do stuff,
sure
and I go
did.
do stuff. Yes, the grocery store has never been so exciting for me.
That's
anyway, there's some scriptures that I want to read that relate to this. Actually, let me start with a quote that you said that is really good. It's the best way to destroy your joy is to chase something outside of this present moment. That's powerful.
Right.
Because again, you're keeping your eye. The ball is either in the future or in the past, and you're not there.
It's one of the greatest struggles.
Yeah.
If you want balance in your life, you're going to have to be really satisfied. With the moment
today.
Yeah.
Yep. So Matthew 6:25 says this, therefore I tell you, do not be anxious about your life, what you will eat or what you will drink, nor about your body, what you will put on. Is life not more than food and the body more than clothing? Look at the birds of the air. They never sow nor reap nor gather into barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not of more value than they? And which of you, by being anxious, can add a single hour to his span of life? Well, that's very convicting.
Nobody, I guess.
That whole scripture is very convicting and freeing if you think about it,
it is. So you
freeing.
go, I don't have to be anything else other than what I am right now.
Yeah. And that whole passage, which we've visited several times, that passage about him giving us our daily bread. He gives us enough for today. Yep. Don't be anxious about what's coming tomorrow, the worries of tomorrow, what you're going to wear, what you're going to cook, whatever. Be in this moment.
And you think about how he actually takes care of the birds.
Yeah.
And how he clothes, and we didn't have the time, so we're going to expand on it right here. But the clothes that are put over, like if you look at birds,
Oh, they're beautiful.
it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean,
most
you
of them
see,
are beautiful.
well, there's
Yeah.
some ugly ones.
Yeah.
And they're usually,
Ugly ducklings.
let's not say what gender is the most attractive in the bird families.
Whatever.
The male has to attract the female.
I was going to say he has to work
female is-
extra hard because of all the other issues.
I don't think we should have gone there. This is going to take a drive to get over this.
So the other scripture that I have for you is Matthew 6:34, and it says this: "Therefore, do not be anxious about tomorrow, for tomorrow will be anxious for itself. Sufficient for the day is its own trouble."
Yeah.
That's good.
So his whole point, of course, is that we should pursue a life of real meaning and purpose, and not pursue and worry about, be anxious about things that we don't have yet, our material possessions.
No control over, really.
But this kind of begs the question. Yeah, we don't have control over tomorrow. If you controlled the variables of the stock market, you controlled the variables of your employment, if you controlled the variables of prices of items that you may, the gas prices, whatever. You don't control
Babe,
it. So
if there ever was a time that we should recognize and see that this is true, it's right now.
Right.
Nobody has control, and nobody knows what's happening and what's coming. It seems like every day you're just like in awe.
I was talking to a friend of mine today, and I know him from a coffee shop I frequent, and I call him the mayor of that coffee shop, and I really love this guy. And he's a little bit older than me, and he says, I am really worried about this. And I said, what's worrying you the most? And I said, you're protected. You're doing social distancing. People around you. He does have an immune issue, and so he has to be careful. But I said, you're staying away from people. And he goes, and this is what he said. I said, I don't know if they're telling us the truth or if this is a conspiracy.
Yeah.
I said, first of all, it's not a conspiracy. It's real. Whether they're telling you the truth or not, I don't know.
On the numbers.
On
the
the
virus
actual
is
numbers.
real. Yeah.
I say, keep your eye on the death total. That will help you get balance and really understand how impactful this is, and severe hospitalizations. The numbers of people that get it are, not that relevant, but the number of people that are really sick by it and or die by it is very, very relevant. And he goes, I never thought of it this way. And I said, well, what bothers you about it? He goes, it just makes me angry. And this is what he said. It makes me angry that I can't control people to make sure that they tell me the truth.
Yeah.
And, that's what Jesus is talking about. Yeah. You have to understand you don't control the future. You don't even control what people say to you. You're not the arbiter of truth out there. So you have to take and find balance the best you can. So this idea of, pursuing purpose over pursuing a material gain, it kind of begs the question, and here's the question it begs: can we pursue both? Can we pursue both? So I know a lot of ambitious people, and they're not materialistic. It's just that they are ambitious. I've been that myself, and it's been to a detriment in my life sometimes, and other times driven me to do some really good things. But how do you balance ambition or a desire for achievement and purpose in your life? And I believe the way you do it is you set the goals. This is how you live in the moment, but still have goals. You set goals not just for today. Obviously, goals that you're setting are for long-term goals, maybe 5 years. I've become convinced that 10-year goals are ridiculous, but I set them my whole life. I'm running out of time, so I don't do that many long-term goals.
Don't
but
say that.
5 years, I'm good. 10 years, I'm pretty good with that. But you set that long-term goal, but then you set up your agenda and your strategy for what can I accomplish today to get to that goal, and live in this moment, live in this day, and be satisfied with the accomplishments of this day in light of the long-term goals. And I think that's how you can balance those two things out. And when it comes to material gain, most of us have food. And if you don't, we need to know about it. That's why we do food distribution through Hope Rescue, and it's some of the services that we provide. But for most people, we have enough food that at least, even if we're hungry, we have enough that we can survive on.
Right.
And that daily bread that you mentioned from Matthew 6 in the Lord's Prayer, just being satisfied with that daily bread, just say, today's enough.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, but the way we lose the present is by several ways, and we're going to share a few ways that we lose it. The first one is this: we are chasing or a contrived moment. In other words, like we want to have we have a family night every night.
Yeah.
So some of them,
not every night.
every
Sunday.
Sunday. Yeah, thank goodness we don't have it every night.
I'd be
We
broke.
used to have it. They grew up and moved away.
Yes.
Every week we have a family night. Thank you for clarifying.
About 15 show up.
Yeah.
We have a big family.
Yeah, we have a big family, and we have some dogs that show up and stuff like that. So some of them are really successful. Almost all of them are, but sometimes it's not a great didn't work real well for whatever reason. The food is always great.
The success is that we're hanging out.
Yeah, the success is that we got. But let me tell you, if you try to contrive a great family moment, like a great family reunion or a great Christmas, or you're trying to chase that perfect connection, you are going to fail and you're going to be miserable.
Yeah.
The way to live in the moment is to allow for some problems in, not everything's perfect.
Yeah.
So sometimes we chase that contrived moment. And what I would encourage you to do is think about this. If you want to live in the moment, is begin to enjoy the process of life.
Yeah.
There's always something of great value in those family nights. And maybe it's just all I got out of it was my daughters told me they love me.
Yeah.
And I got a hug and a kiss.
I feel now, especially, it's just being in proximity of each other, being in each other's company is so powerful.
It's almost always more than that. I don't
Yeah.
want to paint a negative picture, but some of you are struggling with family, and we have too. And in those moments, you go, is there something of value
Yes.
that's there? So
Right.
the first thing to do is stop chasing or contriving
Right.
a moment. What's the second?
And
one?
the other thing would be
Oh,
to
yeah.
avoid comparing that moment to the past, which we tend to idealize over time. We have this potential, and I know you have experienced it too, where you have like a highlight reel of your life. And it seems like we can lean into like certain moments and idealize that moment, whether it's holidays or whatever. And so you kind of ruin your present with this weird idealized past. And one of the things that Tim and I have begun to say in this last, maybe 6 months, we heard this somewhere, but is just saying, these are the good old days.
Yeah.
This moment is the good old days. Like today is the good old days. So you're hanging out with your kids and you're homeschooling or whatever. There's going to be a day, whether you realize it or not, that you look back and say, that was hard, but my gosh, was that ever the good old days?
Yeah.
The bonding that happened around
Yeah.
that table, that dinner table, like, even though it was chaotic and we had them all day long,
Yeah.
these are the good old days. So it's important that you don't compare the moment, but actually step into that moment and appreciate it for what it is.
Some of you might think you don't do that, but think about this. Do you ever compare your family to your childhood family? Do you ever compare your family to somebody else's family? Hindsight, you look back at your family and say, man, it was really great. Okay, well, maybe. But it probably wasn't that great. It was just normal. And now you see the problems as a parent. Or you look at somebody else's family and you go, look at how well adjusted. Right. Yeah, but your kids are well adjusted when they're there too.
Yes.
But in the home, you don't know what's going on. So don't compare that moment. The next one is this: idealizing or romanticizing the moment. And that kind of goes with the first two, but this idea that we're going to have the perfect Christmas. And, we have certain rules that we do for Christmas. Not a lot, but, we have same kind of breakfast every year.
Yeah,
I make
little
the breakfast.
traditions. Yeah.
It's, it's my joy. My joy to make breakfast. And
Waffles,
waffles, bacon,
Scrambled
eggs,
eggs,
sometimes
hash browns,
omelets.
and omelets,
Yeah,
yeah.
we get. It's good.
It's
It's good.
delicious.
It's good. And but and we open presents, but before we do, we read the Christmas story and really focus on Christ, and we have prayer together. And it's kind of like, could you get through that? Because we got little kids and we want them to open their presents.
Right.
And the little kids are like looking at the presents, and they already know because they've already dug into them. But anyway,
They're looking like, I wish Grandpa would just shut up.
yeah. And then there's the dinner. And I remember one year when the kids were little, they weren't there.
Yeah.
And it was just you and me.
Oh, it was sad.
But you know what? We decided we're going to make it a good day.
Yeah.
But Kimberly took down all of the decorations, not out of complaining, but just
Something
like,
to
hey,
do.
Yeah, it was something to
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
And we had a great time.
It was when we were sharing custody with
Yeah.
my 5,
Yeah.
and it was our year to not have them on Christmas
Yeah.
Day. So that was sad, but also it was sweet. But it
Yeah.
made us appreciate
Yeah.
the years that we had them for the full day, for
But
sure.
it's not always going to be that romantic
Right,
fulfillment.
perfect
It's going to be
scenario.
the Norman Rockwell, picture. If it's Scott House, it's going to be kids fighting for a package or
Yes.
getting more food than they should or whatever.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, they're grown now, so it doesn't happen. Yeah, it
Yes.
does. So what's the next one?
The other
Kimberly?
one is to just not overanalyze these moments in the present. I think, we joke about this all the time, but different personalities can lean analytical. Some can be like, pie in the sky, whatever. But it is important that you don't get over analytical of the moment that you're in, because analysis oftentimes can kind of breed paralysis where you're sort of frozen and
I've
stuck.
heard you say that
Yes,
forever because I'm an analyzer.
Well, and being analytical can lean towards being critical. So that it's just a very small
It's true.
step from analytical to critical, and being over analytical, you're going to find something that's wrong.
Yeah.
So try to avoid being overly analytical. That's part of freeing you to be able to embrace the moment.
Yeah, and this idea of how do we avoid, or how do we lose the present in these ways that we've just shared. Let me give you the last one: is resisting the moment. And we resist the moment so often because what we've done is this moment is good. And yet we have taken all these that Kimberly and I just mentioned, and then we throw it on top of that, and we feel like we're not worthy to experience the good old days, like you mentioned.
It almost becomes a self-sabotage.
It's self-sabotage. I've done it a million times.
It's
And
heartbreaking,
I'm the over-analyzing a moment is a tough thing to do. So that analysis really resonates with
Yeah.
me. But resisting the moment through these different ways is really deadly. We are called to live in the moment. That's what God has called us to do. And so we want to kind of close this out. We'll try to do this relatively quickly. Steps toward
We're going to
living
do a
in the
relative quickie.
quickie. Well, let's get through
Some
the
quick
podcast.
steps
So
to be able to be in the moment.
yes, there you go.
I'll remind you
This-
of that later when we're
this
having our
podcast-
relative quickie.
Yeah, this podcast
stay in this
taking on a
moment.
whole new meaning.
Yes.
So
stay in this
yeah.
next 3 moments.
yeah.
for me.
All right. Steps toward living in the moment. Number 1, take yourself less seriously.
Check.
If I could do that, oh my gosh, I would be a lot happier.
Oh, all
and
of us.
maybe some of you too.
All of
And
us.
that we tend to look, take your family seriously, take the Lord seriously, take your connection with each other seriously, but don't take yourself so seriously. It causes you to be defensive. It causes you to assert yourself or react to things. Don't take yourself so seriously. What's the next one?
The next is savor the process of each day. In other words, slow everything down. Like stop and taste and smell and feel these moments with your family, Enjoy and savor the good stuff that's
Yeah.
happening in your life every day. And listen better. Talk more slowly. slowly, listen longer to your children or to your spouse, and just really like lean into the savoring of that day. What does that mean to you? How do I savor this day?
So if you really want to embrace the moment, I think there's this word that I heard years ago when I was studying the concept of anxiety and worry and some of the mental health things that I was struggling with years ago. And in my research, I heard this recording about this term flow, flow with it. And I thought, well, that's a stupid idea, flowing with it.
I like it.
And the more I thought about it, the more I realized how powerful that is. And it's kind of like enjoying the process that we just talked about. But this idea, when you flow with things, it's going to come around. So when you have a tense moment, if you don't react to it, it's going to come around and
roll
things are
with
going
it.
and just take it easy on that and just flow with this. If you're having a panic attack, and that's not our topic today, but if you're having a panic attack, I can assure you that if it is a panic attack, that it's going to be over usually in about 90 seconds or less. Sometimes a little more, but usually 90 seconds or less. Just flow with it and relax and breathe and get centered, and you'll be over it. And it's sometimes living in the moment is accepting the crisis of the moment. So I'm just going to share a real quick story. When we found out that I had cancer, this became a real thing for me. And I go, you know what? I'm just going to flow with it. I'm not going to get okay, I've been diagnosed with cancer. I don't know how bad it is. Is it stage 1, stage 2, stage 4? Am I, is it life-threatening? I'm just going to flow. I'm not going to get ahead of the diagnosis. And of course, it turned out to be, something that surgery took care of. And here I am, 3 years later, cancer-free. And I was just tested a couple of weeks ago, which was awesome. I'm completely cancer-free. And the beauty of that is when you flow with it, you can be in the moment and not worry about what's coming.
Yeah.
And
I was busy doing that for you, but you not doing that really helped me to like dial it back.
When you say doing that for me,
I was
you mean
busy being anxious and worried and fearful for your future. But you, by example, you were, remained sort of at peace in that moment, which was powerful to not just me, but to our kids.
Yeah.
So it's not just that it's impacting your own soul, it's impacting the souls of the people you influence and love the most.
Yeah, you got the next one there?
Yes. So it's important to not compare your life to others. We know this. We've all heard this. We've talked about it a lot. But, what your moment looks like in your life today, your daily bread is going to always look different than somebody else's, and so it should. But where we start to feel miserable is when we feel like we should have or do or be what somebody else has, and or is, or, all of those things. So it's so important to keep your eyes on your own plate, not somebody else's, and to be able to appreciate what's on that. And even though you have challenges, and I've been there, where you feel like you've been dealt a bad hand in life, and you've been destroyed by someone, your trust. I was a single mom for several years. Those were hard times. Still, to be able to say, I get to be the one raising these kids right now. I get to be the influencer.
Yeah, I was just thinking about, this idea of how we get stuck in comparisons and so forth. But, somebody shared with me scripture one time when I was going through a difficult time. Romans chapter 8, it said, all things work together for good for those that love God and are called according to his purpose. And for some reason, it just didn't resonate with me. It's like, whatever, what are you saying?
Yeah.
And what they were saying was actually not what the verse is saying. The verse is not saying it's going to work to your good. It says that you're called according to his purpose. What good? Who's good? It is God's good. It's God's purpose. God is using difficult things and good things for a journey that he has to tell Job in the midst of his all of his family had died, and his wife turns from him, says, "Curse God and die," and he's lost all of his wealth, and hey, remember, all things work together for good.
Yeah.
And you're like, wait a minute, but it does when you realize according to God's purpose, and we are called according to his purpose. So God did have a purpose in Job's life, and eventually he was restored
Yes.
in all that he had and even more. But the reality is that if you compare yourself, then God didn't give you the grace for somebody else's journey.
That's good.
He's given you the grace for your journey.
Yeah, I like that.
And here's another, something to kind of encourage you, a little technique. Write down your distractions. If you want to live in the moment, write down your distractions. Things outside of the moment that compete for your attention. Is it the past that you regret that you did certain things? Make restitution where necessary, apologize where necessary. And if all of that's been done and it's still haunting you, say every time it comes up, say, God, I receive your forgiveness. God, I receive your forgiveness until your heart has purged you of that past. If you're worried about the future, say, God, I trust you for the future. I'm going to stop trying to manage the future. Write down the distractions. What are they? I wrote down some things the other day that were bothering me about the future. And I was thinking, gosh, why do they have such a hold on me? And it was a couple of 3 days it was really affecting me. And I wrote them down and I prayed through them, my journal. And so I wrote them down in my journal and I prayed about them. And I thank God for those future issues that I had to deal with and how God was going to give me. And by the way, it turned out that none of them were a threat to me at all. So we've talked about that in previous studies, but what else do we have?
So after you've written them down, then
Yeah.
it's important to just take some time, if you can, to focus and breathe.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I've incorporated into my life, just starting this whole COVID thing, being locked down and not being able to go to the gym with you and stuff, is having a good 35 minutes every morning where I stretch, I focus, I breathe. And when I'm listening to worship music, I always consciously think I'm breathing in God's presence. I'm exhaling stress and my worries for the future, for the day, for my children, my grandchildren. And it's just this process of letting go of those things that keep us out of this moment and breathing in the moment and truth from Christ and his presence. And it's so helpful.
Let me kind of close things by talking about this. We've given you some ways to really focus on the moment and really live in the moment. But one of the most powerful verses is this: yet those who wait for the Lord will gain new strength. So you got to wait. You have to be patient. Okay. And then wait, and you will gain new strength. They will mount up with wings like eagles. Now, how do eagles respond? How do they fly? They will run and not get weary. They will walk and not they will not get tired, and they will walk and not become weary. So how do eagles fly? Eagles can fly a tremendous distance, and they will get off their perch, and you'll see them flap their wings only for a moment. And then they really quickly, they're experts at this because they've learned to find them. They find thermals. And they lock their wings in, and those thermals just lift them up. They don't flap their wings. Living outside of the moment is like flapping your wings. Living in the moment is saying, God, you provide the power. You provide the thermal. You lift me up. You take me through this journey. I will be grateful along the way. I will continually say, God, today is enough. Today is enough. Every time you feel like you need something from tomorrow, or you need to grab something from the past, say, God, today is enough. And I think you'll find yourself in the middle of this moment living for God's glory. Thank you for listening to Hope Rescue Podcast. God bless you. We'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.